Welcome to Plus One Forward, the podcast powered by the Apocalypse, where we talk about tabletop role-playing games using or inspired by the Apocalypse engine. I'm your MC Rich, and I'm joined by my guest, Jason Morningstar of Bully Pulpit Games. Hey Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
Happy to have you on. Hey, so how long have you been playing PBTA games, and what was your gateway game, Jason?
Oh my goodness, I guess my gateway game was Apocalypse World. And I've been playing since Apocalypse World was released or thereabouts.
When it was officially released, or when Vincent was still developing it, playtesting it, or how early on?
I don't know. It's hard to remember. I'm not sure if we played a playtest version or not. I think we did, and have been sort of playing on and off since then.
When you say we, is this a home group?
Yeah, I'm in. I have two groups that I play with locally, and both of them are pretty heavily invested in Apocalypse World and its derivatives, and have played a number of different games, and come back to it over the years.
Nice. How long did that first game last, and did you run it?
I think Steve Seghetti ran it. Steve says hi, by the way. I just got out of game night with him and my Thursday night crew. We're playing The Sprawl, which is Hamish Cameron's Apocalypse World game. Or Apocalypse World inspired game. I think he ran it the first time, maybe the first couple of times that we played, and I've run it many times since then.
I gotta know, what was your first Apocalypse World character?
My very first Apocalypse World character. Man, you know what? I don't remember. I'm very sorry. I can't tell you because
I would guess a Savvy Head. That would be my
No. I don't. I actually dislike Savvy Heads, and I don't even allow them when I run the game. So no, it was not a Savvy Head. Oh, you know what it was? It was an angel. I played an angel.
Oh yeah. Nice. Yeah. Very cool. Awesome. All right, well, you want to go read a sitch?
Sure, yeah.
Read a sitch.
Most recently, I played Sagas of the Icelanders at Origins. I ran it 3 times at Games on Demand, and it's a game I love and that I've supported since its early development. I'm really, really happy with the way it turned out. It does a lot of cool things, and the thing that I think is most interesting about it, and that would probably be most interesting to your listeners who may not be familiar with it, but that are conversant with sort of the Apocalypse World paradigm, is that in Sagas of the Icelanders you have gendered moves. So men and women have literally different things that they can do that are in some ways opposite of one another, that reflect the setting super well. One of the things that men can do is fight. They can accept physical challenges, and they can beat each other up, and they can kill each other. And women don't have any of those moves, which is super interesting because there are many times in the game when a player of a female character wants to resort to violence, and the system doesn't support them in a traditional way. So like in Apocalypse World, you can go aggro, or, there's always a way that every character can just be violent, because it's power fantasy fiction that we're creating, right? So of course you can be violent. But in Sagas, if you're playing a woman, you don't have that option, which is fascinating. And so, what happens when you have no procedural recourse and you commit violence? Well, what happens is what happens in Laxdela Saga, or any of the sagas where that actually happens. Women are literally tempting fate. And there's a move for tempting fate, and that's what you do. And it's great. It's really interesting at the table when that happens. And often very eye-opening when you really, the sharp divisions in that culture come into sharp relief. And of course, there's a playbook called the Skjaldmey, the Shield Maiden, who's a woman assuming the social role of a man.
Right.
And so what happens when she performs the functions of a man, but only has access to female moves? And that's when the fur really flies, and it gets really, really interesting and crazy. So that's the sitch that I want to read for you. I think that's something worth looking at, and the thing that makes that game really sing.
Now I'm curious, when you tempt fate, you're using a different statistic, or is it a flat roll?
No, you're using it's not like Night Witches. You're using a different stat. You're using your connection to the gods.
Nice. And is that normally lower? Like, is it basically harder statistically for women to perform those violent acts?
No, it's just you're using a sort of a different flowchart to get to the result, and that flowchart is much, much more truncated and dangerous, because if you fail while tempting fate, it's bad news. It's real bad news.
Oh, okay.
Whereas if you fail when accepting a physical challenge as a man, it's just there's a couple more moves that come into play, and you're not sort of throwing yourself at the mercy of the GM quite as blatantly.
Interesting. Okay, so you have less options because it's just not something in this game the gender is inclined towards. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're a female playing a female character in Sagas of the Icelanders and you feel compelled to do violence, your very, very best move is to find a brother or a father or a son and get them to do it for you, which again just perfectly replicates the source material. And it's super cool, and you are equipped with all the tools you need to do that, which is very interesting. And men are incapable of that. They're incapable of talking sense to somebody or manipulating somebody. They're murder robots. They can't do it. So it's great to see those gender dynamics in play, reflecting the source material so well.
Very cool. I've recently been listening to episodes of the Myths and Legends podcast, and in that he's talked about several of the Nordic tales, not necessarily like Norse mythology, but actual folklore, and that idea of the men having no ability to relate and always tended towards violence definitely comes through. So that's really cool.
Yep. Sagas of the Icelanders. It's a really, really thoughtful and interesting Apocalypse World variant.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned Night Witches. Do you want to open our brain to learn a little bit about Night Witches? Or, well, you don't have to learn about it. You teach me.
Sure.
Open your brain.
So Night Witches is an Apocalypse World based game that I wrote. It takes place during World War II, from the years 1942 to 1945 on the Eastern Front. You play Soviet airwomen. So during the war, there was a unit called the 588th Night Bomber Regiment, and they were a bunch of women who were pilots and navigators that were dispatched to harass German troops during the night. And they were astonishing in the work that they did. They would often fly a dozen sorties a night. They were stationed right behind the front lines, and they were flying essentially agricultural biplanes that were designed right after World War I, completely obsolete aircraft, and just heroic stories of sacrifice and bravery. And the thing that I think is most interesting about the game, or the thing that really drew me to the subject, is really the duality of the situation these women found themselves in. Not only the sort of duality of day and night, where every night you're flying these incredibly dangerous missions, and then in the day you have to regroup and be soldiers, but also the duality of the idea of total war, which is a hard concept to wrap your head around, I think, unless you were a Russian during the Great Patriotic War. And, youthful idealism. These are women who came of age in the late 20s and 30s when the Soviet Union was bursting with potential and was obsessed with aviation, and then everything went to hell. Before the war, it went to hell. And also the idea of purpose and belonging and the gender dynamics. So the things that are very different about Night Witches from a normal Apocalypse World game is that you have different moves whether it's day or night. And at night, it's a very tactical combat game. It's very lethal. It's episodic. And in the day, it's essentially a social game. You're trying to keep your airwomen alive. You're trying to avoid getting entangled with the NKVD. And they also have stuff that they need to get done. They need to fix their airplanes. They need to get supplies. And the Red Army doesn't want them to succeed. The Red Army is sexist and thinks that they're a dumb sideshow and is doing everything it can to make them fail. So that's interesting, I think. It's a very challenging play environment. You rotate GMs throughout the game. You play across a defined arc of play. You literally play out the Second World War. And every time you switch duty stations, you move time forward a little bit, and you get somebody else in the group to be the GM at the new duty station, which I think is pretty fun. And there's a little piece of technology that I'm really proud of that's in the game. It's called marks. And marks are like narrative hit points. So your character starts out with 10 marks, and moves, failure states and various moves will prompt you to take these marks, which are their interaction with war. For a good example of a mark is witness the death of a comrade or loved one. And as soon as you check that off, it's going to enter the fiction. 9 of the marks are sort of narrative things like that are going to prompt you to be playing a game that's about surviving in total war. And the 10th mark is face death and your final destiny. And that's like your last hit point. When you check it off, you're definitely going to die.
You say hit points. By that, you mean when we hit that dramatic point, I go and mark it on my sheet. It's not I'm going to mark the sheet and indicate to the GM that I want this thing to happen.
No, it's the first way. So for example, one of the moves is enemy fire, and one of the failure states of enemy fire that you can choose is you are marked. And if you choose to be marked, then you look at the available marks on your character sheet or your playbook, and you check one off. Then you announce that, and then it's sort of everybody's responsibility to bring that into the fiction. And some of them are very obvious, and some of them are much more difficult and require some cooperation. And if you check them all off, the final mark is you're going to die. So that's how those work.
Nice. Now, Apocalypse World, there is an ability to retire to safety. It does not feel like that exists within Night Witches.
It doesn't. It just doesn't. And the notion of playing a character that survives through the war is remarkable, and it's remarkable by design. All the math is very carefully tuned to make that something that's achievable, but that is really hard to do. Your characters are going to be hurt. There are ways that your character can be removed from the game without dying, but they're not happy ways. You can end up in a hospital. You can end up in a prison camp. That's pretty much it. Okay.
One of the things when I hear you talking about Night Witches that strikes me is that a lot of the Apocalypse World and Apocalypse Engine games are very free-form. The players often drive the fiction. It's a lot of play to find out what happens. But you're talking about this game, and you're telling me that you play through these duty stations. You're playing through the war. The war's already happened. This is historical fiction we're playing through. Is there a play to see what happens, or is it, how much play is there within those structures?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's a ton of play. Partially, I think we have the advantage of having a lot of distance from these particular times and places. Mm-hmm. So when I say, hey, it's November 1944 and you're at an airbase in Zambrów, Poland, well, they were actually there. It's real history, but I don't know what went on from day to day, and neither do you. So the game gives you all the information you need to tell a story that hews to the general outline of history, but that is going to be your own and is going to be unique and full of drama. And also, I give you all the sort of details you need to make it seem real. And that's one of the agendas of the GM, of course, is to make the game seem real, make the setting, breathe life into the war.
Cool. I like that. I like that idea. There have been a lot of discussions that I've seen lately about how fun RPGs can be within a canon. And of course the discussion was, Star Wars or, some other fantasy setting. But historical fiction often intimidates me specifically for that reason of like, well, I'm not going to get it right. I think, do I need to have Wikipedia up and like some big thick encyclopedia right by me? So it sounds like it's a structure that's a backdrop and a general guideline, but the lives of those individuals are completely our own, and they are the fiction that we create and then the mechanics that drive it, right?
Yeah, totally. So I think that the game's structured so you can't go off the rails that are the Second World War. I mean, the war is going to end in May 1945. The regiment is going to, move the way the regiment did, and you're going to go to the places that they went. And I give you all the sort of background you need to make that seem real. But beyond that, it's your game, and it's always going to be different. It's fun for me as the designer who is, at this point, I'm kind of a subject matter expert about these people. I did a ton of research, and I know the story well. And when I play at a convention, for example, people come up with stuff that's ahistorical or that is out of place, either in time or space, and whatever. Who cares? It doesn't matter because we're crafting our own story at that point. And if you get something wrong, I'm not even going to mention it. There's no need. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I am curious, Jason, I know that you're a student of history. What about Night Witches, or how did you first find out about it, and what really made you feel like, okay, of all the pieces, along with Grey Ranks and some of the other games that you've released, what tripped your trigger about Night Witches specifically?
I first learned about them in 2006, which is 10 years ago now.
Wow.
I found a monograph by a woman named Kazimiera Katam, who did actually some academic work. She did some ethnography with surviving members of the regiment, and I just ate that up. And then I started reading more books about them, and was just floored. It's such an amazing story, and I immediately thought, "Oh, this is so gameable. This is so game worthy. It hits all these notes that I'm really interested in." And I wrote a game in 2007, and it was terrible, and I put it in a drawer because it was not any good. But the idea stuck with me, and as soon as I saw Apocalypse World, I started writing notes again about it, because I realized that finally there was a sort of a game framework that really was going to work. And it turned out to be a lot harder than I had anticipated, but it was the right choice, both to wait and then to use what Vincent Baker had created.
Cool. Yeah. So I know you write a lot of your own game systems. Are you happy that you stuck within the Apocalypse engine?
Yeah, I think I am. When I started the project, I thought, I've already done all this research. This is going to be really quick, right? Because I'll just bolt this onto the framework of a different set of rules, and those rules are clearly functional and do what I want, and it'll be a very, very easy process. And 43 revisions later, I found out that
43.
Yeah, there were 43 substantial revisions to the game.
Wow,
it was a lot of work, and it's a very subtle and elegant system, and making changes to it is like throwing a rock in a pond. You have to be really thoughtful about what you're doing and why. And I'm not sure that I got everything right. There are some things that I look at now and I'm like, well, maybe this could be different, but you can always second guess. But yeah, like hacking Apocalypse World it's not a joke. You can do it well or you can do it poorly. Monster Hearts was my guide throughout, because I think it does a brilliant job of taking the core mechanics and making it its own. And that's really what I wanted. I needed to make it my own, and that took a long time and was not simple.
All right, I have to know. What's your favorite move and why?
My favorite move in Night Witches?
Your favorite Night Witches move.
Oh, man. The ones I like are the ones that I think help guide players into sort of a melodramatic or melancholy mindset, which I think is just sort of quintessentially Russian. So let me give you a couple of examples. There's a move in the Sparrow playbook called Ghosts. Mm-hmm. Sparrows are like weird, they're flighty, and they're a little unearthly in the way that they interact with the world. So Ghosts, choose a dead comrade and hold 3. When you ask your friend for help, spend your holds 1 for 1 to succeed as if you'd rolled a 10+. Every time you do this, you are harmed or you're marked by the experience, your choice. So that's an awesome move, because you're talking to somebody who is dead and they're helping you out of a jam.
Wow.
And there's a cost associated with that.
That is really cool.
Is it metaphor? Is it supernatural? I don't know. It really depends on how you parse it, but it's a creepy and weird move. Another great move that's I think this is from the Raven playbook is political thought. So there's an assess kind of move called eyeball. So when you eyeball a situation, you can also ask, is there evidence of violation of Articles 58 and 133? Which is the Russian criminal code. And of course there's a whole element of paranoia about the secret police in this game. So if you take the political thought move, you're saying, I'm a zealot and I'm going to find people who are not living up to the socialist ideal, and I'm going to get them thrown in the gulag.
Whoa.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cool moves like that really, I think, reinforce the setting.
Jason, I'm pretty excited about Night Witches. I know it's just being you here, but you think maybe you could run me through like a little sneaky taste of it? It is time to act under fire.
Well, okay, I'd be happy to, but so do you have a character, Rich?
I always have a character. I think I would like to play Plusakov.
Plusakov. Tell me about her.
Oh, Plusakov, she is, she's kind of short and thin, kind of, I think she's thin bone.
Is she a pilot or a navigator?
Oh, gotcha. I think she is a pilot.
Yeah, I thought so.
Very
right.
cool.
And so she's sort of diminutive.
Yeah, she is. I would say she's probably like 5'2".
Oh, wow. So she actually needs like to put blocks on the pedals to control the rudder in the plane.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Is she a good pilot or just a mediocre pilot? Well, I guess she's Plusakov. She's all +1s in her stats, right?
She's +1s in all of her stats, so she's slightly above average. But I think she takes a lot of risks. That's how she gets there.
Yeah, well, if she's +1 in all her stats, that includes her medals stat, which is sort of a derived stat, and that means she's probably earned the Order of Battle Merit. So on her tunic, she's actually got a medal already, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Is she an officer or a non-commissioned officer? Is she a junior lieutenant or a sergeant?
I'm going to go with junior lieutenant.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would think so too. Okay, you're in Zambrów, Poland. It's November 1944. So it is cold. The weather is snow mixed with sleet. It's just miserable weather. The regiment is chasing the Red Army as you guys are raging east, driving the Germans in front of you. You're attacking targets all across eastern Poland. You're flying farther than you've ever flown before. Everybody's exhausted. Every night, the missions are difficult and dangerous. You know that tonight's target is going to be a surprise attack on the German headquarters of 9th Corps, the 3rd Panzer Army in Poznania. It's going to be a super dangerous mission, and everybody is dreading it. Right now, it's about noon. You've had your sort of midday meal, but you've got some work to do. One of the planes in your sections was damaged last night. Also, you've been hearing some rumors from other women in the section about Junior Lieutenant Marova, that maybe she's got a problem. Do you want to deal with either of these, or do you want to do something different? You're welcome.
Oh, no, we got to be ready for tonight.
You think so?
Push too far, so first we're going to deal with a plane.
Okay, so this is plane tail number 141.
All right.
And it got shot up pretty bad. So what are you going to do? You want to talk to the mechanic? You want to go check it out?
Let's go check. Let's check with Mechanic Dasha.
Okay. So, Dasha's out there looking at the plane, sort of wiping her hands on a rag. She's, of course, covered in grease. She looks at you and is like, what?
Dasha, we have to get this. We got to get the tail fixed. What do you need?
Okay. Well, the genius who flew this last night, who I think was you, pushed it too hard. We bent a push rod in the number 3 cylinder. Maybe it got hit by flak. I don't know. But that needs to get straightened. So if you want to help me, straighten the push rod.
Okay. Well, let's do that.
Yeah, it's not that simple. Listen, Plusakov, we don't have the tools we need. We don't have a machine shop here. So there's no way to straighten this push rod. It can't be done. End of story. Good night. The plane's not flying.
It's noon. It's nowhere close to night, and we are going to get it up in the air.
Oh, yeah?
So what do we need? What can we sub in for a push rod? There's got to be something around here with this ground.
I don't know. Okay. You know the 259th Fighter Aviation Division? The guys who have the nice hangars and the tarmac next to our airbase?
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't smell like shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've got a machine shop. They can straighten the push rod, but they're not going to do it. I mean, you can go try if you want, but I don't know. I think it's a lost cause.
Let's try. We got a mission tonight, so we have orders, and if we can't get this in the air, I've got nothing to fly.
Yeah, you're right, Plusakov. Listen, I got a dozen other planes to take care of, so go get your push rod straightened. And she hands it to you, and it's a big piece of metal from the engine of your plane.
I take the rod and I kind of hold it up to her and I say, I'll be back.
Yeah, okay. Well, don't take too long because I'm going to have to install it even if you get it fixed. So,
All right. I'll do that.
All right. Good. So what's your plan? Like you can see like the 259th Fighter Aviation Division, these guys are heroes, right? They're fighter pilots. They fly during the day. They get all the best stuff, all the best equipment. They're flying brand new Yakovlev Yak-3 fighter planes. They get good food. They've got fancy leather jackets. They've got Lend-Lease silk scarves that they wear. They're just the best. And you guys don't get any of that. And you are strictly forbidden from fraternizing with them. You're not allowed to talk to men. So there you are standing. You're actually standing at the rope that they have tied between the grass field, the snow-covered field that you guys fly out of, and the carefully plowed tarmac that they fly off of. You're not supposed to cross this line.
What's the punishment if I cross the line?
Depends on who catches you. If your own people catch you, it's probably going to be some kind of discipline. You'll be, confined to your barracks. They'll put a note in your file. If you're caught by an officer on the male side, it could be anything. You could end up being sent home.
Who's my superior officer?
It would be Captain Barsukova.
Can I go talk to Captain Barsukova?
Sure. Yeah. She's actually getting her plane ready for tonight as well.
Okay. I'll just walk right up to her. I've still got the rod. Captain, I need to talk to you.
Plusakov, I'm busy. I'm flying tonight.
Yeah, well, I can't fly if I can't get the machine shop over there to fix this.
Okay, so at this point, Rich, it sounds like you're acting up. You want something from her, right?
I do.
Yeah, all right. Well, so you're acting up. Are you doing this by... There's three ways this might go. You might be acting like a hooligan, which means you're being basically a roughneck, acting like a man, kind of. You might be doing this by acting like a lady, or you might be doing this by acting like a natural-born Soviet airwoman. Which of those three are you doing?
I think that she's being direct, but effectively acting like an airwoman.
Yeah, I think so too. This is a practical matter, and you just want to get it fixed. Okay, so you would roll plus medals, which is plus 1. So go ahead and roll the dice. Let's see what happens.
Okay. That's a 9.
A 9 after your plus 1?
Correct.
Awesome. Okay, that's that's great. So you're going to choose one. Your options are you can make him do what you want, you can ensure that there are no consequences, or you can add one to the mission pool. Mission pool is something you need to succeed in missions. It's basically...
There is no mission if I don't get this plane in the air.
Yeah, so you're going to get him to do what you want?
Do what I want.
That means nothing to the mission pool, and there are definitely going to be consequences.
There will be consequences.
Awesome. So in the interest of expediting this, we could, of course, role-play this scene, right? But we know how it's going to go. She's going to be like, fine, go do it, but I've got my eye on you, and there's going to be trouble if you screw this up.
Okay.
Fair enough?
That sounds great.
So off you go with Barsukova's blessing to the 259th.
I just duck underneath that rope.
Yep.
And march right across that beautiful tarmac.
Yep, and a whole bunch of women from the 588th watch you do it, and they're all shaking their heads. Okay, well, who do you want to talk to? Like, you could go talk to a mechanic. You know a pilot over here. There's a guy named Lieutenant Kirsanov that you know personally from some previous interaction. Maybe you know him more than personally.
Yeah, maybe I do.
If you know what I mean.
I'll talk to Kirsanov first.
All right. Yeah. So these guys are flying during the day. So this is actually during his missions. He's come back to refuel and rearm his plane. He's shouting at some mechanics. He's obviously stressed. He's sweating. He looks like hell. But he sees you and he kind of brightens up and adjusts his scarf and strides over.
I give him a quick nod. You said lieutenant, right? He's a lieutenant?
Yep.
Lieutenant Kusanov.
Junior Lieutenant Plusakov. It's good to see you on this side of the line. Frankly, I'm surprised. What are you doing over here?
Oh, the captain gave me permission. I need to make a flight tonight, and I blew a rod. I got my tail shut off, and if I don't get this fixed, I can't fly tonight.
Well,
we're already short-staffed.
Maybe you should take a night off. You girls work too hard.
Oh, no, we've got it. We have an important mission tonight. We're pushing hard.
He kind of rolls his eyes. Yeah, you've got an important mission. Sure you do. Hey, you know what you should do, Rich? You should eyeball the situation.
Okay.
You should totally size this thing up.
I would. Yeah, I'd like to see. Let's see what that reaction was. That kind of threw me off a little bit. So here we go. I've got a +1 in this. I've just rolled a 7. +1 is an 8.
Awesome. All right. And just to be clear to you and to our listeners, this guy's kind of a sexist ass. Jason is not a sexist ass, but he's going to be playing one, so be advised.
Thank you.
Is that clear to everybody? Okay, good. So you're sizing this guy up, right?
Yes.
You rolled a 7 to 9. You get to hold 1. You can spend it. This is just, like reading a situation or a person.
Okay.
So what question do you want answered here? Maybe what am I overlooking, or how could I get something? What is he? What does he want?
I'm really focused. I'm laser focused. How can I get him, despite however he's going to treat me? How can I get him to help me get to the machine shop to get this repaired?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, he sidles up really close to you, and you can smell his sweat. You can smell the stale sort of stink of fear on him. And he's looking at you with just like unbridled lust in his eye.
Okay.
What's your relationship with him in the past? Clearly you know him well. Maybe you've had some interaction with him.
I think that there was a night, it was before my first flight, and he offered me a little bit of solace, and I took it. I was really scared, and he was a pair of warm arms.
And he probably thinks that there's more to it than that.
He definitely does.
That's definitely the attitude you're getting from him. So this might be an opportunity. Maybe you need to lead him on, or maybe you need to make some commitment for later on or something. Clearly, though, he expects a little quid pro quo if he's going to help you out.
So I soften my voice a little and sort of look at the ground. Lieutenant, if I can't take a night off. If I don't fly tonight, then they don't need me anymore, and I won't be around, to see you.
Huh. You really are dedicated. Oh, I like that. Well, listen, Plusakov, meet me out on the line tomorrow night. I'll be free. I'll meet you at dawn before your briefing after your mission. You'll be tired, I'll be tired, but maybe, who knows, maybe something will happen. I'll bring some vodka. How's that sound?
I can't meet you unless I can fly, and I can't fly unless I get this fixed, but if you do that, then yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, you drive a hard bargain. Awesome. So he's going to take you into the machine shop. Now, you're also, this is just sort of, again, in the longer term of the game, maybe you're acting up again, and this time you're acting like a lady. So that might be what's happening. Or depending on how you parse it, you might even be acting like a hooligan. It's hard
That's
to
true.
Hard to say. Hard to say.
Quite a hooligan deal I've made.
It is. You're using your sex appeal to get what you want, but that may not be acting like a lady. So he takes you into the machine shop, and it's a matter of 5 minutes for his mechanic to straighten the push rod. It's just trivial.
I've never seen anything like this, so
Yep. If your mechanics had access to this stuff, your planes would all be in tip-top shape. So you take it back, and Dasha is like, great, I'm amazed that I don't know what you promised them. I hope that you can pay it back without shaming yourself, but you're going to have to put that in yourself. I don't have time. And she walks off to go fix another plane. Hey, man, that's how it goes sometimes. So your navigator, Ira, is standing there, and she's like, I know how to fix a Shvetsov engine. We can put that thing back in. Come on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I went through hell to get this. And then...
Yeah, this is something you need to learn, Plusakov, because Dasha's not always going to be there for us.
Okay, you're right. I will learn it. Teach me. Show me how it works.
Yeah, let's do that. So you're going to repair the plane, which, again, engages another roll. You're rolling plus skill this time.
Okay, let's see how that goes. Oh, that is a 6, but I got a +1.
So you all right, awesome. And if Ira were a player character, she could help you and make that a better roll. Awesome. So you're going to fix this plane, but you're going to choose 2 options here. So your options are, you're going to choose 2 of these. She's going to fly eventually, but not tonight. You're going to take 1 harm from lack of sleep. You don't complete the job in the officially approved manner, or the plane acquires a personality, which, can be good or bad.
I'm going to take 1 harm due to lack of sleep.
Yeah, okay.
And the idea of the plane acquiring a personality, even though it may not pay off in this little demo, sounds amazing. So please.
Yeah, in long-term play, all the planes become very, very distinguished from one another. and some of them are real bastards, and some of them are just dreams, and it's great. It's really fun. But in this case, so you took one harm, which is good, would have real repercussions, because one harm is, minor. 2 harm is you're going to the hospital. It's pretty hardcore.
Wow.
You're seriously injured. When you're flying tonight, that's going to be a major consideration. But you work all day, you're exhausted, you get the plane fixed, and tail number 141 is ready to fly. You just got one more problem, Plusakov. You're on the line. You've got 3 planes ready to go, but there's only 5 people there. One of your pilots is missing.
Is it?
It's Junior Lieutenant Morova. And everybody else turns to you and just sort of shakes their head. And then they look at the barracks.
I'll be right back. I'll march my way over to the barracks.
So Xenia Mirova, she's brand new to the regiment. She's fresh out of flight school. She's been flying for about a week, and it has not been going well. Clearly, she's under a huge amount of stress. She's not adapting well, and she's a total mess. Her tunic is unbuttoned. She's sitting on her bunk. Maybe she's been drinking, and she won't look you in the eye.
Walk in. I'd like to eye the situation here.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a real good idea.
All right, so I'm going to roll 2d6 with my +1, and I've rolled a 9. 8, and +1 is a 9.
Awesome. Okay. So you get to, remember, you get a +1 forward on your answers.
How can I get her in that plane to fly tonight?
How can you get her in that plane? She needs a friend. That's what she needs.
Okay.
She doesn't, everybody thinks that she is a weak-ass pilot. Nobody's giving her the time of day because she's the new girl. She needs a friend. And that friend has got to be you.
Yep.
So how are you going to,
sucks.
How are you going to be Xenia's friend?
I've lost like 5 pilots in the last couple months, I would say. So that's why you don't want to get to know her.
No, yeah. And this is late in the war. Like, you have seen some stuff before now, for sure.
I'll head over and sit on the bunk beside her.
And she turns away from you. She says, I can't.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
I just can't go up anymore. I can't do it. I know they'll throw me in jail. They'll send me to a mental hospital. Maybe they'll shoot me, but I can't get in that.
Xenia, calm down.
I'm not cut out for this.
You are cut out for this. I've seen you fly. You're doing great. I was nowhere close to where you are after this mini mission.
I don't want to die, Plusakov.
I don't want to die either. And if I don't have you watching my back, and if I'm not watching your back, it gets worse.
I don't know what to say. I'm scared.
I understand. I'm scared too, but here we have a chance to do something.
Yeah.
You want to be in jail? What are you going to do? The exact same thing over and over. Here we have a chance to get out.
Some chance.
It's a slim chance. But it's a chance.
Okay, Rich. How are you approaching this? Because there's a couple of moves that might apply here. And again, Of course we could roleplay this whole scene, but in the interest of demoing the game, we're just going to cut to the chase here. You might be acting up to try to get your way, which is to get her in the cockpit. But you also might be reaching out, and I'm interested to know which one you're doing.
I feel like from reading the situation and the roleplay that she began that we're going towards reaching out.
Okay. So when you reach out to somebody, you reveal a significant new truth, and then you just straight up roll the dice. So let's see what happens there. I haven't heard you reveal anything, unless it was that you're also afraid of death, but that seems like
it's just a little weak.
Everybody would know that.
Here we go. We'll drop the truth. The truth is, Xenia, I just promised one of those officers over there to have sex with him just so I could get my bird up in the air. And I can't fly if you don't fly.
Awesome. That's perfect. That's exactly the sort of truth to be revealed, because that's going to cause complications down the road. She knows something about you now. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, roll the dice. And this is not modified by anything. It's just just a roll.
7.
Nice.
5 and a 2. I saw the 2 popped up and then it was a pause. And then 5.
So check it out. Your options. You get to choose one of these. You can remove 1 harm from you and Xenia, which would actually be very good for you. You could change a regard slot, which is something that is part of the game. Or you can add 1 to the mission pool, which also is always a good idea.
And regardless of this, she is going to agree this is just an option I get kind of on top of that move?
Nope. This has nothing to do with manipulating her.
Okay. I'm going to add 1 to the mission pool.
Awesome. Cool. So you're still exhausted, and you don't have necessarily a closer relationship with Xenia right now, but that's okay. So you've shared with her. She seems to be calming down. And I think that fictionally makes sense because you're talking about how important the mission is. She gets a little bit of the pride, of B-section. She clearly is sort of on the edge. You're talking her into it, but you're going to still need to persuade her.
Okay.
So it's time to act up. And as of now, you've kind of been acting like a lady. You've been very conciliatory and sensitive to her needs and calm. Do you think that's what you're doing?
Yeah, that's definitely what I've been doing.
Yeah, so roll plus guts, Plusakov.
Here we go. Oh, that's a 5 and a 2 again, but that's up to an 8.
An 8. Awesome. So you get to choose 1, which is make her do it, make sure there are no consequences, or add 1 to the mission pool.
Make her do it.
Make her do it. So consequences, right? The consequences here are that she's going to rat you out to the NKVD for fraternizing with the men. Just so you know, that's what's happening next week. And you don't get to add anything to the mission pool. So she agrees reluctantly. She gets in her plane with the rest of the squad staring daggers at her. Just venomous hate for this weakling, this coward. And Ira is terrified to fly with her because she's clearly the weak link in the chain. And these moves start to snowball. And that's Night Witches.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's intense, man. That's some good pressure. Very, very cool.
So then imagine, you sort of do this stuff, and then it's nighttime, and you have to fly these hellish missions, which are really dangerous, and you have to make really horrible choices about basically who's going to live, who's going to die, what happens. Our plane's going to get torn up. It's a very different part of the game, and the two phases are starkly contrasted.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Jason. Thank you so much for talking to me about Night Witches and running it through with me. That was really, really fun. I appreciate having you on Plus One Forward.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I enjoyed it, Reg.
Plus One Forward is a production of the Gauntlet community and Richard Rogers. You can find us on gauntlet-rpg.com or follow us on Twitter at GauntletRPG. The games mentioned on this show use the Apocalypse engine, which is a creation of Vincent and McGay Baker. The music for Plus One Forward is from the Savage Arl Hotbed CD Gomi Daiko. The songs used are Gomi Daiko Metal version and Process. You can find more amazing tunes by Savage Arl Hotbed on their website, savagearlhotbed.com.